So the only other commissioner I see here is Dean Au. Are the others here? Do we have a quorum? I can't see.
Yes.
Hi, John. This is Maya. Yeah, all of the commissioners are present.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The online meeting of the Windward Planning Commission will now come to order. It is Thursday, January 7th. The time is 9:08 in Ka'u, anyway. Based on the governor's proclamation related to the COVID-19 emergency, we are holding this meeting online. This is to maintain physical distancing and prevent the spread of COVID-19. The public can observe this meeting on YouTube live streaming by following the link provided on the county website or by using the URL advertised on the agenda. The video recording will be accessible on the same YouTube channel for those who are not able to watch it live. The background reports on the agenda items, which include the applications and the planning director's recommendation reports, are available on the county websites. Minutes and transcripts will be posted on the county website at a later date. With respect to public testimony, the commission has received additional written testimony from the public regarding today's agenda items. There are 5 testifiers registered to provide oral testimony for today's meeting. I would like to remind all participants the protocol at this online meeting. Silence your phone. Only one person may speak at a time. Please raise your hand to be recognized by the chair before you speak. Speak directly into your microphone and keep your microphone muted while you are not speaking. If you talk over each other or if your microphone picks up noise that will make the speaker's statement inaudible, it cannot be transcribed. Thank you for your cooperation. Now, I will introduce the commissioners, my fellow commissioners. When you are called, please raise your hand. Vice Chair Gilbert Aguinaldo, Commissioner Dean Au,
Good morning, everybody.
Commissioner Joe Clarkson,
Happy New Year.
Commissioner Thomas Rapafy,
Good morning.
and I am chairperson, John Replogle. We have the quorum required to hold this meeting. The following staff members are also in attendance. We have Deputy Corporation Counsel Malia Hall, Attorney for the Commission.
Good morning.
Deputy Planning Director Jeffrey Darrow. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
John Mukai, Attorney for the Planning Director. Temporary Assignment Planning Program Manager Maya Jackson. Planner Alex Roy. Commission Secretary Melissa Dakayanan Salvador, and assisting the commission and staff today is the Director's Secretary Rochelle Lay, who is hosting this virtual meeting. With that, let us proceed to our business on the agenda. Prior to the presentation of the first agenda item, oral public testimony will be conducted. We have 5 registered to testify. All those who are here to testify, please turn on your cameras and microphones. I am going to swear you in at this time. Are they there?
Yes, they're there.
Okay. All those of you who are here to testify, oh yeah, I said that. Please raise your right hand. Swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter now before the Windward Planning Commission.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The list of testifiers, all testifying on item number 3, AT&T Mobility. We have Crystal Schitzler, Layla Kealoha, Jonathan Kealoha, Jose Romero, and Kazuo Todd of the Hawaii Fire Department. Crystal, would you please begin? Oh, I'm going to ask you all to turn off your cameras and microphones again and call you one at a time, one by one. Until it's your turn to speak, keep your cameras and microphones off so that the person who is testifying will have a better chance to be heard. I appreciate your being considerate to the other testifiers. Also, to be fair to everyone, testimony is limited to 3 minutes. You will hear the sound of a signal telling you that you have a minute to wrap up your testimony. After 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted, and I'll ask the commissioners if they have any questions regarding your testimony. When there are no questions, I will ask you to log off for the reasons stated earlier. Please be reminded there is live streaming on YouTube where you can continue to observe the hearing. All this is to conduct a fair and orderly hearing. Thank you for understanding and cooperation. And finally, please state your name and the area of your residence before you begin testimony. With that said, Crystal Schitzler, would you please share with us your thoughts?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for meeting with us today. Yes, I'm here to share with you guys that I am against this proposed cell tower near the Puna Forest Reserve. I feel like this is not a good use of this land for this telecommunications facility. I know based on the commissioner's recommendations in the report that I read, they were saying according to the 1996 Federal Communications Act that these types of towers can be put in these types of neighborhoods as long as such facilities comply with FCC's regulations concerning such emissions. But actually, according to U.S. General Andrew Campanelli, telecommunication towers that have been tested routinely emit above the FCC limit. And so the FCC is setting these limits, but they're not enforcing them. And these telecommunications companies such as AT&T are not being forced to measure these emissions on their own. And so this is a big concern to me, considering this tower is going to be placed directly next to this Puna Forest Reserve, which is home to hawks, to owls, to endangered bats. And so if these emissions aren't being tested, they could potentially harm these animals and also the ancient ohia trees in this reserve and other plants there. So, that's a big concern to me. I feel like these companies should be made to test the emissions of their towers. Right now, that's not happening. And so, I feel like based on this alone, this is a concern to the community. And so also these 5G, I know this is a 4G LTE tower that's being proposed, but also it's being proposed to expand the 5G network in support of this next generation technology. And right now, this technology, this 5G technology is not being tested. The government, the Department of Defense, who is funding and promoting these towers to, cover that gap in coverage for the first responders, they're not allowing any testing of this 5G. Excuse me?
1 minute
You
left.
have 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you very much. And so yes, this 5G technology needs to be tested before it's put in the communities. And also, I recommend that the commission denies this proposed tower next to the Puna Forest Reserve because it's going to adversely impact the community's character and surrounding population. And I feel like this alone is a reason this tower needs to be denied. This is a forest reserve. This is not a place for a telecommunications facility. It also leaves a door open for other telecommunications facilities to be built on the same property. And to me, that's irresponsible because this could be a huge telecommunications facility according to this report, with other companies such as Verizon putting towers here, 5G towers, which have not been tested. This is no place for these towers. This is a forest reserve. These are protected for the community. This is unacceptable. This tower needs to be placed somewhere away from the forest reserve and away from communities. This is going to adversely impact this community very badly. So thank you, Commission. I appreciate you listening to my testimony, and I hope you consider what I've said today. Thank you very much. Based on what I've said, this tower is not...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
guys.
you, Crystal.
Aloha.
Aloha. Next, we will have Leila Kealoha.
Chair Replogle, could you ask the commission if they have any questions of
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Fellow commissioners, do you have any questions for Crystal? It appears not. Thank you again, Crystal.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are going to move to Leila Kealoha now. Leila?
Hi, aloha. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good morning. So I'm here today because my primary home and residence is 13-3749 Old Kalapana Road. And this has been part of my family property for the past 50 years. Where I'm located is less than a quarter mile from where this proposed facility is. And, you know, I'm completely for there being expanded broadband for our community, but exactly what Crystal was sharing is that this telecommunications facility that's being proposed to be built right across the street from my house, basically, is in a forest reserve. It's Baukeleo Puna. This is a place of gathering for our people. This is not a place where I want to see a 4G tower put up, expanding into a 5G tower that's going to possibly affect me and my family, where my home is. And I'm also really interested to know how they are wanting to build this tower directly on where the lava just came underground and it's still sitting underground. This is a place where the dike of the 2018 eruption just came right under us. It cracked open my driveway. I haven't lived there for the last 2.5 years, but I just moved back ago because I'm in the process of still building my home. And I got about this. We do use this area for gathering. We do plant our... We've lost so much to the ohia rod already in these forests. And like Crystal mentioned, I do have bats, I do have owls, I do have hawks. So one of my questions to you folks is there going to be a 106C process that's conducted with the lineal descendants and cultural descendants of the area? That's my... You know, I'm really concerned with the monitoring of emissions from these towers.
1 minute left.
Thank you. And so I'd like to see how they're going to circumvent this in the event this facility is actually able to be built, because I'm completely not in support, and I hope that my neighbors around me were able to submit their written testimony this morning. And unfortunately, my husband, who was going to testify this morning, wasn't able to make it. He had to work. But he is also concerned for the safety of our children, because this home of ours that we built will be our children's home and our grandchildren's home. And so I really hope that you take into consideration that we're not in support of this being right across the street from our house. And I appreciate your time today for listening to us. And I do want to know if the 106C process is going to be followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, do we have any questions for Layla?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Mr. Au?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Kealoha, for coming and testify. Question to you is, you said that the lava flow is flowed directly under where the tower was. Can you just elaborate on that? Is that exactly where the proposed tower is going to be? Is that where there was lava?
Yeah, it's right there. I mean, so if you talk to the USGS Hawaii Volcanoes Observatory, the dike of lava expands anywhere from 300 to 500 feet wide underground, and the depth of it is anywhere between 50 to 100 meters underground. And right where my home is at, if you look on Highway 130, all the cracks that opened up on the highway, there was about, I don't know, 8 or 10 or so that opened up on the highway. It's just before the road that goes up into the Sanford's E11 area. And so it's either directly on top of it or right next to it. And the property that's located right next to where the proposed facility is, Haida is her name. And she actually had some of the hottest cracks in the ground of recorded temperatures in that area. So it's like right next door to that. And so the dike, it still sits there. The lava under the ground, it's still cooling. There's still, if you drive through the area, you still see the steam. Some mornings are worse than others. So yeah, the lava's right there. And it's moving more uprift, meaning that, so directly across where the proposed site is, if you go up Alaili Road, I mean, it's death. It's total death. The trees, I mean, and the forest in that area up there. So I'm really surprised that they would be wanting to build that facility in that particular area as well, too.
Okay, well, my what I was really asking, Ms. Kealoha, is it live lava that the proposed tower is going to be on? Not live lava, but meaning the most recent flow. You were just indicating that the lava is potentially underground, but is the actual lava, did the lava flow go over the property?
No, it's all underground.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and thank you. I see you're in your car. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Ms.
Mr.
Kealoha.
Rapafi?
Ms. Kealoha, Happy New Year. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Question for you. You said your house is less than a quarter mile away from the proposed site.
Yes.
Do you know about how far away the house is?
If you draw like because it only shows on the map like where like the proposed site is, so I don't have like where the site's going to be. Like there wasn't anything in the letter that was given to us exactly where it's going to be there. But they said in the letter to me that we're within less than a quarter mile of the site.
Okay. How about your property? About your property line? How far away your property line from the proposed site?
It's less than a quarter mile.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
I have one. I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Aguinaldo.
Hi. This question is for Layla. Aloha, Layla. It's
Hello, Gilbert.
Hey, I just, circumventing and just listening to Commissioner Au and your discussion. I'm like Layla, born and raised in Pahoa, and I'm very familiar with what Layla indicated is Kamaili Road. I guess they call them Kamaili and Alaili. So there's Alaili, there's Layla's house, right there's the crack, guys. It's where the state highway ended up making custom concrete, man, I don't know what you call it. They made some concrete pads that they custom made to seal that crack. So that rift, what Layla is talking about, it goes straight up. So from there, they call that the Lower East Rift Zone. Based on that crack there, it goes straight up to that acreage. And Haida, I'm familiar with Haida. I was supposed to work on her home. And she came to the hub one day crying because, man, she said there were just massive cracks coming down from there. So basically, it's, yes, we need cell service. There's a lot of gaps, but location, again, we got to really look at. So as far as that lava that, you know, Mr. Commissioner Al was indicated, there were lava coming out from there. It was supposedly plugging from Fissure 8 plugging and coming back up. That was their true intent from the volcanologist if it did continue to erupt. That from Fissure 8 was supposed to go cold and plug up and go move back up towards the mountain. So basically with that there, speaking about cell towers, yes, it's an emergency, you know, item that we need because there's a lot of areas that don't have landlines. Yes, cell is very important, but you know, I just wanted to say that because Layla is just close to that crack, right to the cell tower site. Because in that area, I think, if I understand correctly as well, Layla, Salvador lives up there too, yeah? Yeah. So yes. Salvador, owner of LeQueen's, have a big acreage up there as well. I'm currently looking at the map right now. As far as that area, there are homes in that area on Alaili Road. So basically with that there, yeah. So for answering Dean's question too, yeah, the state came up with some massive concrete precast road to seal that big crack. And it was wide in that area. That was the only way in and out, besides the road that they redid again, go back to National Park if the thing did cross. Yeah. So yeah, you're pretty close to that. Yeah, Layla.
Oh, I'm right on it.
Okay. All right. That's it. I'm good. Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert. And is there anybody else?
Yes, I have a question, not for Layla. Thank you, Mr. Aloha. But for staff, I'm surprised that we're hearing from all the testifiers on every agenda item up front rather than after the presentations. I have to say, in the background material that I got, not all of the maps, the photocopies of the maps from the application were quite as legible as I'd like them to be. And I, for one, would have liked to have seen the staff presentation on this agenda item before hearing from the testifiers, so I could understand more fully exactly where all these places are, where the houses are, and that sort of thing. Can someone from staff say why the normal meeting order has been modified for this meeting?
Hi, Joe. This is Maya. We have been doing this for the last few meetings. I know we've at least been doing it for the Leeward meetings, and I thought we had been doing it for the last couple Windward meetings. The reason that we're taking all the testimony in the beginning of the hearing is because it's difficult to manage all of the screens of testimony of testifiers before each item. And so similar to how County Council does their meetings, we're taking all testimony in the beginning of the hearing.
Will we be able to direct questions to any of the testifiers after the staff presentation?
No, not at this time with the WebEx platform that we're using.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I have a question, Leila. If you would be so kind as to explain the 1060 process a little bit better, like exactly what is it? And I understand about the community outreach part, but if you would be so kind as to enlighten us.
So the 1060 process is done when there's anything to do with the 1060 is a federal process that's done with
Yes.
cultural and lineal descendants of the areas of where there's something proposed to be done. And so it's required federally for anything that's proposed to consult the lineal and cultural descendants of the area. There's also a state one, and I just can't remember it off the top of my head this morning. But like I mentioned, I mean, this area where we're at is part of the VOW, which is an area of spiritual and cultural gathering. And it's right on the edge and within the VOW Kelio. So we consider that whole area the VOW because it's where the spirits dwell. And, already we have this mining of I'ileva up there on the top, which is not something that many of us are too happy with either. But that was never something that was brought to us back in that time as well. But so the process is to consult with the cultural lineage descendants of the area as well too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from the commission? Okay, thank you, Leila. And Jonathan is not here, so I would like to call Jose Romero next.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jose Adame Romero. I live in Puna, and I'm against the building of the tower in Puna. What was you gonna say? Okay, whatever. So I'm here to tell you, because your guys already heard all the technology and all the harm that, it comes down to title, whatever. But this tower falls under a forest reserve. And when you look at when I look at my Aboriginal culture and I interact with the environment, I build this relationship with my environment. And when you look deeper into that, that's called religion. The religion is the is your interaction or your understanding with the environment around you. And when you put EMF towers around a place, it disturbs that environment. And you might not see it right now, you might not see it in 2 3 years, but when you look down the road, this radiation or this magnetic field that we're gonna create is gonna mess up the migration of the birds, bee patterns. It's gonna kill off the bees. And if you don't believe this, then you gotta look back at your history with the whole chemical thing. If you guys want some information on that, you should read Silent Spring and see what happened with the whole chemical and the weapons of war. Because electronic magnetic frequencies are weapons of war. You guys need to make stand up for something right in your life and not fucking harm the environment. Aloha.
1 minute left.
Thank you. Keep your minute, man. You guys are a bunch of corrupt people anyways.
Thank you, Jose. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Romero.
Yes, Mr. Au, go ahead, please.
Hi, Mr. Romero. Thank you for coming and testify. I just got a quick question for you. How are you doing? Are you doing all right?
I'm stressed. I'm under duress because you guys, I'm still dealing with the tower you guys trying to put in front of my house.
Okay, well, I just want to, thank you for coming and testify. I also want to extend another thank you and thank you for your services to the United States of America. And, I really do appreciate you and just want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. No, appreciate it.
Is there anyone else? Okay, Mr. Romero, thank you. And I concur with Mr. Au. Thank you for your service and for testifying. Next, we have Kazuo Todd of the Hawaii Fire Department.
Okay. Sorry. My name is Battalion Chief Kazuo Todd. I'm from the Hawaii Fire Department, and I'm here to testify in favor of the cell tower. I can't speak to any health issues or stuff that might infect the environment or anything like that. The reason I'm testifying is particularly because the area is Puna, and we have lost some of our communication capabilities in the area. So being able to bring back some of that ability to communicate through the cell tower systems or additional radio capabilities down the road is particularly important to the fire department. So the fire department, police department, and our EMS response rely on the ability to communicate through either radio towers and our radio system or through data that is being sent through these cell towers. And more we're switching to a lot of data applications. In my warehouse, which I run for the fire department, I just received the latest batch of 53 mobile data terminals. And these mobile data terminals are actually going to end up inside of our engines and tankers and brush trucks and ambulances. And what they do is they connect us back to the 911 dispatch system. And through that cell system, we're able to get information on the person we're responding to, their medical issues, or what's going on with the fire, or if there's weapons on scene, or things like that. And that data is very critical for us to do a better job for the public. So I'm assuring, with any decision that your committee has to make or your commission has to make, there's positives and negatives, right? The impacts as well as the benefits. The benefits in this particular case help us to provide a better service to the public in terms of saving lives and making a difference in the quality of life of the people in the area. Puna is especially needed as, even the fire department lost one of our radio towers and enclosures and equipment down in the lava. It got covered over, is done by PGV. So any additional capability in the area is useful for us to be able to get that critical life-saving information to our first responders and to be able to get information back to our dispatch to let them know what's going on scene and what kind of additional resources we may or may not need. And so for that reason, the fire department is for expanding our capabilities to be able to communicate that critical information. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Fellow commissioners, any questions for Mr. Todd? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Todd, for your testimony. Much appreciated. I would take a motion to close testimony at this time, unless there are any further questions.
Motion, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to close public testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Au. A second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. I will now call for all those in favor of closing public testimony, please say aye.
Wait.
Wait,
What did I do?
I just have a
Oh.
question. Are we
Oh,
closing?
go ahead, Joe.
Are we closing public testimony on this one agenda item or all agenda?
This is all there is public testimony for today.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what we're closing it on.
I vote aye.
Okay, everybody else?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded and voted on and to close public hearing. There's no discussion. All those we've said aye, it's done. New business. So we're moving on to the presentation of item number 1. The applicant is the County of Hawaii Department of Parks and Recreation, SMA 20000077, application for a special management use permit to conduct facilities upgrades and Americans with Disabilities Act ADA improvements at Colicoli Gulch Park on the 5.5 acres of land situated within the special management area. The subject property is located in the Colicoli Gulch Park, Makai of Old Mamalohoa Highway, and underneath and Mauka of the Hawaii State Belt Road, Kuhua, South Hilo, Hawaii, TMK 32-8-015-015. Staff, I believe Alex, the planner, will be doing the presentation.
Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair and Commissioners for attending today. I'm going to talk about the County of Hawaii Department of Parks and Recreation Special Management Area Use Permit application for the Colicoli Gulch Park Accessibility Improvement Project. Here's a location map. Most of us know where this is, but it's just north of Honolulu, Makai of Akaka Falls State Park, and you can see it's kind of between Hakalau and Pepeakeo. The inset map kind of shows it, the park right along Colicoli Stream. The applicant, in this case the County Parks and Rec, is requesting to a number of things at the park. I'll go through them. Converting the existing restrooms into a single occupant accessible restrooms and upgrading the existing associated septic system. Providing a new accessible comfort station with septic systems. Building one new pavilion, demolishing one pavilion and repairing the remaining pavilions. Providing drainage improvements to divert shower runoff from the stream. Replacing the shower and picnic tables with accessible facilities, removing non-native vegetation, repaving and improving the stability and integrity of the driveway and parking area, developing an on-site potable water system and fire protection water system, some landscaping improvements, and then other work including remediation of lead contaminated soils, and some asbestos or lead removal from the existing structures. Now, just to give the Commission a little bit of background, the lead remediation project is ongoing and required soil removal, and that's being coordinated through DOT and Department of Health and DLNR. And I think, if there's more specific questions about the lead remediation project and those details, the applicant is here and could address that. But today, this SMA is really for the site improvements. It does include soil remediation from the park itself, and then the asbestos and lead removal from existing structures. That's typical for old structures. So the idea and the intent of this project is to, one, clean up this area, make it safe for the public, two, improve access to the site, to the park, as this is a very heavily used park. It's been in existence since 1938, so it's been around for a while, and the community relies on this. And at the same time, the Hakalau Park is also closed in this area. So getting this up and running, getting it accessible for the public, for those with disabilities, and then at the same time making it safe is really the goal of this project. Here's the county zoning. You see that it's about, there's a little bit of A, 20A, so agricultural 20 acre, and then there's a section of open. So the surrounding area you see is all A, 20A or A, 10A with some small residential development up north of the site. The state land use, this entire site is within the state land use conservation district. So the applicant has been working with OCCL and DLNR to accommodate these uses on conservation district zoned lands. The LUPEG has this entire area, pretty much the riparian buffer in the conservation district. South and kind of around that is some important agricultural lands, open along the coast, and then low density urban north of the site. Here's an aerial photograph of the park. You can see old Mamalohoa Highway that comes off of the Belt Road is the access, and then there's a driveway that heads right into the park itself. So they'll be doing some improvements, again, safety improvements, improving access, and some of the roadway improvements. Here's coming into the park. So down that driveway, and this is what you see as you enter the park. You can see some of the pavilions, the restrooms, the bridge. And the bridge is where the problems from lead contamination came from. And it was found that the paint and materials used to construct the bridge, sloughed off into the ground below and the water below, thus impacting this area with lead contamination. So they've been working steadily to clean that up, but this is a big problem for bridges across Hawaii that were built during this time period. Here's moving into the site more. You can see the larger pavilion. Some of the other pavilions that are off to the in the center of the photo, kind of off to the right-hand side of the park. And then here's the parking area, 3 of the pavilions. And then here is a shot of the site, kind of your Makai of the parking area. And this is where the new pavilion and ADA restrooms will be going, kind of right where the picture's taken here. So here's a site plan, general site plan for the park improvements. I just included this one to kind of show you the existing pavilions in yellow. So you can see them kind of across the top there. And then the new comfort station and new pavilion location, which you can kind of see in red, outlined in red. So this gives you an idea of where those new comfort stations are going to go. Now the septic, the drainage, or in this case the drain field for the new comfort station will be Makai of that new comfort station, and typically takes up an area of about 10,000 square feet. Here is a view north along Hawaii Belt Road at the entrance to the Colicoli Gulch Park. I think we've all seen that. And then here, of course, is the view south along the Hawaii Belt Road, and you can see the entrance on the right. And then kind of here's a current entrance. You can see the park is closed, the gate is up, and has been closed, I believe, since 2016, maybe 2017, and will remain closed until the lead remediation and project is able to be completed. I have noted that people do still access this area walking down because it's still a surf spot. So access is still available. It's just really there's no parking right now, but people are still going down there. So the applicant may be able to talk a little bit more about access during construction and how that may work. So at this time, the planning director's recommendation for SMA-20-00077 is approval with the stated conditions.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just curious about the lead remediation project. I remember it, but did we approve an SMA in recent history for that project?
No, this would be the SMA for lead remediation on the park parcel. I know some work has been conducted in the DOT right-of-way, which extends down below the bridge, and they've started working there, testing. But this is the SMA for lead remediation in the park, on that park parcel, the subject parcel.
So no actual lead remediation in the right-of-way has actually occurred to date?
I believe the applicant can probably speak to that, but I believe it is ongoing right now. I know a number of the testing, of course, took some time locating the concentrations within the soil, and so in that sense, the project is ongoing. But the applicant may be able to speak exactly to what is happening right now, currently with lead remediation, soil remediation.
Well, my question really is probably for the DOT, but if we didn't approve an SMA, and I can't remember us doing it for that project, how are they able to have a project like that in the SMA area without a permit?
I'm not sure if that's, I'm not sure. I mean, the DOT right away, you're dealing with two different things. We have the conservation district, which the state has regulatory authority over uses. In this case, the SMA is dealing with the impacts and in the SMA, but you don't approve uses. Also in the DOT right away, I believe that they have the authority to conduct activities that are necessary to protect and preserve the right of way. But again, they can probably speak to exactly what's going on right now outside of the project parcel. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Within the project parcel, you're approving soil remediation within the project parcel.
Which I saw on the map does not extend to the right-of-way. Perhaps state highway projects are exempt from SMA permits. I'm not familiar with the law.
Yeah, I'm not sure. From my past experience with DLNR, DOT kind of has authority within the right-of-way to do what's necessary within the right-of-way to keep that functional. But again, yes, you are approving soil remediation in this project parcel, which is the park parcel. So that's part of this approval.
Thank you.
But I can't speak to the other parcels.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? I have one, and it was in your list of things that they were going to do, and it was referring to the Colicoli stream regarding shower runoff. What is meant by that? Rain showers or human showers or what?
Human showers. Yeah, right now the runoff from the showers goes directly into the stream.
Okay.
So they need to regrade, and they're going to remove that input of effluent into the stream. So the idea is not only to provide access, but to really to clean up the site. deal with better septic, potable water, fire security, runoff, preventing runoff, stormwater management, the shower, alleviating those impacts to the stream from current activities. So yeah, it goes into the stream, and so the idea is to stop that completely.
The idea then is to clean up the environment for all concerned, the fish,
Yeah.
us, everything.
Yeah, not just the humans, but the stream itself provides a number of resources for gathering. And so, yeah, the idea is to really to tackle this area holistically, doing
Yes.
septic, the lead remediation, asbestos removal, access, and then even making the pavilions themselves safer and better, for the public.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So,
Any other further questions? Yes,
just
Joe.
following up on your question about the showers, Mr. Chair. These are open air beach shower type things. These are not showers like pool house or anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are just rinse off stations. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So next, we'll have the applicant's presentation. Ron Terry of Geometricians Associate, agent for the County of Hawaii Department of Park Recreation. Kevin Sakai, Parks Project Manager, County of Hawaii Department of Parks and Recreation. Yen Wen Fang, Engineering Partners, and Brian Funai will be in attendance with Ron Terry. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth on this matter now before the Windward Planning Commission?
I do.
Please state your name and the area of your residence. Did you receive the Planning Department's background report and recommendation?
I want to first make sure, Chairman, that you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Great,
I can
wonderful.
see you too.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. My name is Ron Terry, and I live in Hilo, Hawaii.
Thank
and I
you.
did receive the background report. We have, probably the lead for most of the questions here will be our Parks and Recreation Department. I'm here to answer anything about environmental issues, and then we have our engineers. I would also like to, maybe not right now, but when you're ready, I can discuss the question of the commissioner regarding the SMA for the DOT project.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell us whether or not you agree or disagree with the recommendation, and you may give us your presentation?
Well, thank you. On this matter, I will defer to the Parks and Recreation Department.
Okay, thank you. You may begin, or the Parks and Recreation may begin. I don't know where they are, but
Are there?
there they are. Good morning.
Good morning. This is James Komata, planner for Parks and Recreation, and Kevin Sakai, the project manager for Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
So to your question on the conditions, we had the concern on condition number 11. Just wanted to clarify what the intent is on that, because it references a state document, which is a guide from, I believe, 2006. And so, we have a very thorough and detailed set of plans that are presented, that were presented to the department. And we want to clarify what specific requirements either we're not addressing or it's unclear that we're addressing that generated that condition.
Staff? Would someone care to answer that?
Hi, this is Maya Jackson. I can try to answer that, and Alex, you can jump in if you would like. So this is a somewhat standard condition that we use for SMA permits, and basically the guide gives best management practices to use for stormwater management practices, and it is meant as a guide. I see that the wording that we have in the condition is a shall, and perhaps that should say should. So we could make that change, but basically the intent of the condition was to ask that Parks and Rec refer to that guide and implement as many of those stormwater management practices as is feasible.
Yeah, I would appreciate the shall being changed to a should. We did review it with our design team and with Ron as well. And it appears that, our designers have taken into account a lot of these best management practices already. So because we have, or you guys have had the benefit of a fully developed set of plans, I was wondering if there was anything specifically on top of that that you guys want to see, especially under the shall condition. But if it's a should, I think we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I have no problem with the should. Like Maya said, it's a general condition. Just to remind those working in that area to take a look at that. If there's something that can be used, it would be great to use that. But otherwise, I have no problem with changing the applicant should implement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's the only concern we have as far as the conditions go from Parks and Recreation side.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Au.
Thank you, Mr. Terry, Mr. Komata, and Mr. Sakai for being here. This is a project that the community has been waiting for. From my understanding, the park's been closed for 5 years. Is that correct?
The park is actually open right now. I think what Alex had mentioned about having to walk down, I think we reopened a few months ago. People are able to drive down to the park and get there. Once we were able to work with DOT to cordon off or secure the areas with the higher lead content in the soil, and be able to reestablish a safe maintenance practice down there. So the park is open. People are able to get down there and park in the park.
Okay, well, I guess what I was alluding to was that it has been closed for a long time, and this is a project that the community needs so they can enjoy the facilities and enjoy the park down there. I guess my question is more for maybe Mr. Funai, Mr. Yen, and Mr. Terry, and maybe Mr. Komata and Mr. Sakai, if you guys can elaborate on that. There was an issue about the lead, and I understand that this project is moving forward because you guys already, because the county is already designing it, and it looks pretty complete to me. And I understand the lead project is going to be concurrent. If this project gets approved by this commission, if the special use permit gets approved, then everything is going to go concurrently. And I just want to know where the lead project is at, and if it's going to be anticipated to be done at the same time when the improvements are going to be done.
So sorry, this is James Komata from Parks and Recreation. So we just had a conference call this morning with DOT to bring all the parties up to speed as to where both projects, if you want to consider them separate entities undertaking the projects. DOT's project to remediate the soil, to remove the lead contaminated soil and dispose of it properly and import new soils to reestablish the existing park to its current condition. That would happen prior to the construction project that involves the accessibility and the structural improvements, the water system upgrades. So it would be something that we would be dovetailing where the DOT project would run and then the county project would run immediately after that. So we try to minimize the amount of downtime or inaccessibility of the park to the public and the users. But it's the access is too tight, the area is too small. We can't have two separate contractors, so to speak, working there at the same time, right on top of each other.
Okay, well,
I have a question.
Thank you, James, for that answer. Yeah, and I understand that our commission and our duty here is just to look at the special permit, like Alex had just mentioned. But I think it's fair for us to be concerned about the lead issues because the community is going to be using it, and I do know the county's intentions and everybody's intentions is to make everything safe. So I appreciate that answer and thank you very much.
Joe, you had a question?
Yes, I just have a question as to whether the DOT lead remediation and the County of Hawaii lead remediation will be simultaneous, or will you wait for the DOT to finish their project, then do the lead remediation on the county project, and then begin construction of the improvements? What's a snapshot of the schedule, please?
So like I mentioned, the conference call we had with DOT and some other parties this morning, we're waiting on procedures that the DOT has to follow in order to implement their project. We're looking, our project, if I had to guess at this point, I would say we're about 6 to 7 months out from being able to start construction once we go through our procurement bid process and acquire all the permits necessary, because there are additional permits and approvals we need to get following what happens here. So if the county's project starts in 6 to 7 months, what we'd like to do is work with DOT to squeeze their project in ahead of ours. And I'm not sure, again, we're waiting on timeframes from them because there still are certain procedures they have to follow in order to start their project. So nothing is set right now. It's just throwing it up in the air. If you want something, it's 6 to 7 months for us to start the construction on the county project. And that's not looking at schedules. It's not looking at facility availability, usability. All those have to come into play once we actually set a start date.
Yes, Joe.
A follow-up question then for staff. I mean, I can't remember the law on this. Are there expirations on these SMA permits or time limits? It sounds to me like this is going to be a multi-year project. Are we premature?
10 years to complete the project.
How long?
10 years. Condition 3,
okay.
construction of the proposed facility improvements shall be substantially completed within 10 years.
No. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. The lead removal is being done by DOT, and that's where the lead is in their area of responsibility, or is there lead removal involved in the county's area? And are you both doing that? I think it was answered, but is that lead removal taking place simultaneously? And the other question is, while that lead removal is taking place, is the public allowed to be down there around that? Thank you.
So again, James from Parks and Recreation. So as Alex had mentioned, there are two separate sources of lead contamination at the park. One is the bridge that DOT is responsible for, and one is the buildings because of probably the lead in the paint that was used in some other building materials in the past. So between the state's responsibility and the county's responsibility, there's a pretty clear demarcation as to what our scopes are. The county is going to be addressing the lead in the soil source from the buildings, and DOT will be addressing the lead in the soil from the bridge. The projects like I said earlier, the DOT's project is anticipated to go first, so we'd like them to go through first, address the soil area, because again, that's further into the site than ours. It also impacts some of the improvements that we need to do, such as the septic system for the new comfort station, as well as the new comfort station and the new pavilion. So if we don't have to have our contractor working in that hazardous material areas, better for us and our contractor. So
Right.
that would go first, and the county project would go next. The intent is to address all of the current sources of known lead in soil contamination that could affect or would affect public health and safety, as well as that of our staff and maintenance crews. As far as where we are right now, we've, in collaboration with DOT and Department of Health, their HERE office, we have been working with them to ensure that the public can continue to access the park in its current condition safely. Like I said, we, in conjunction with DOT, had identified the area of high concern that has been fenced off or secured. Signs have been placed, and we monitor the condition of the lawn and the soil there on a regular basis, so we don't end up with a situation that exposes the public unnecessarily to a greater risk.
Thank you.
Mr.
Are there
Chair.
any other questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Jeff with the Planning Department. I wanted to just address a question that was brought up earlier by Commissioner Clarkson regarding the need for a permit for these remediation actions. We've had not a whole lot, but a few of these types of remediation projects come through the planning department. And the question has always come up whether or not they require any type of SMA permit or county permit or state permit. There's a section in the Hawaii Revised Statutes, section 128D-23. This is within the environmental response law. And as James had mentioned, it's pretty much overseen by Department of Health HERE's division. And as long as you comply with that chapter, you're exempt from all state and county permits. So they have to work with that particular agency to come up with a remediation plan and follow that plan accordingly. So I'm sure, as James had mentioned, that DOT as well as the county will be working with DOH, and therefore the remediation portion would be exempt.
In addition to that, this is James from Parks and Recreation. So that's exactly what the next step in the process is for DOT. The DOH HERE office was on the call this morning, and they emphasized the need to have, there is going to be a public notification input process that goes along with that exemption that Jeff pointed out. So the public will be notified and will have an opportunity to provide input on that exemption procedure.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just follow up if I may, please. I don't want to delay things, but my question is for Mr. Komada. It still isn't clear to me whether the county will be doing its lead remediation project simultaneously with the state remediation project under the bridge. I know how long these can take, and I'm just wondering whether you are going to wait, the county will wait for the state to complete before they begin their lead remediation project around the buildings.
Yes, this is James from Parks and Recreation. We will wait for DOT to complete their work and leave the site, and then we will implement our project, which includes lead remediation as part of it, immediately following their completion. Again, I'm not sure how much detail you guys get into in the background stuff, but the lead remediation having to do with the bridge sourced areas. Extends anywhere from surface soil, well, top 6 inches, top 4 inches, all the way down to 24 plus inches below surface. When we're looking at the conditions at the buildings, they're pretty much at the near the surface. So it's not as extensive a project. It's not as extensive a component of our project as it is for the project you're envisioning for DOT. So that's why, I mean, we have to regrade, we have to excavate for new foundations, new utilities, new pavement. So all of that is going to occur in that top area. That's why all that's going to go as part of our project and not a separate project. I mean, if we did it as a separate project, that would extend out the whole delivery time and closure period for the park. So it's not efficient for us to do it that way. And it's not in anyone's benefit for us to put it that way, from what I can see.
Will the park be closed during the DOT remediation project?
Yes, it will be, because they're going to have heavy equipment and trucks and everything moving through, and access to the ocean and the stream is going to be extremely limited, and it's just out of safety and allowing the DOT to perform their work as quickly as possible, not draw it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for action.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Motion. So
Please.
this is Commissioner Au. I move to approve special management use permit number 20-000077 as the planning director recommends, with the amendment to condition number 11 to change a second sentence to change the word shall to should.
I second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. And I believe staff does a roll call vote here.
Okay, this is to approve with the amendments, as Commissioner Au had stated. How do you vote, Commissioner Au?
Aye.
Can you hold the vote for just a minute, Alex?
Hold on one minute.
After the motion, you need to offer discussion to the commission before taking the vote.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion before we take our vote?
Yes, I have just a brief question still that I'd like to touch on regarding condition 11, this drainage or stormwater runoff mitigation. I'm assuming that much of the guide is incorporated into county ordinance and public works and the building department's requirements for this project. Is there anything that staff knows about that is in the guide that they think important that is not incorporated? And if not, then why is the condition there? And if so, why hasn't that particular item been made as a condition? I'm just a little bit confused why having non-mandatory conditions.
Hi, this is Maya Jackson. Commissioner Clarkson, so this is a guide that was put out by the State Office of Planning, and it was put out by their Coastal Zone Management Division, which regulates all of the land uses within the coastal zone, particularly within the SMA area. So this guide has not been adopted by the county Public Works Department, and it's not in any of our zoning ordinances. It is just strictly a guidance document put out by the state CZM program. So it isn't mandatory. But it does list some best practices. It gives pictures. It shows examples of how to implement stormwater best management practices.
And is there any one of those practices that the planning department feels are important enough to be made into a condition?
We have not evaluated the guide thoroughly enough as a department to determine to adopt it as part of code or our rules. As I said, it's just strictly a guidance document, and we encourage applicants and developers to use it, but we're not mandating its use in any way. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Clarkson?
That answers my question. My recommendation would be to hand the guide and delete it as a condition in the future.
Thank you.
That's all for me.
It was moved by Commissioner Al and seconded by Commissioner Rapafi. And we've had the discussion. Staff, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Al?
Aye.
Commissioner Rafapi?
Aye.
Commissioner Clarkson?
Aye.
And Chair Replogle?
Aye.
Sorry, Vice Chair Aguinaldo? I'm so sorry.
Aye.
Chair Replogle is aye.
Okay, the ayes have it.
5-0. This is approved with the amendments as noted and the changes as noted. Thank you.
Okay, John, off to you. Thanks for your help.
Okay, we're moving on to yes. We're moving on. We are moving on to item number 2. This item has been continued at the applicant's request. Therefore, we are going to move on to item number 3. And the applicant is AT&T Mobility, use 20000084. Application for a use permit to allow construction of a non-manned telecommunication facility of 100-foot tall.
Sorry, John, 1 second.
With what?
1 second. Alex, can you please mute the planning department? Thank you. Go ahead. The conference room wasn't muted.
100-foot monopole with related equipment within a 1,050 square foot portion of a 444-acre property situated in the county's agricultural zoning district. The subject property is located at 13-3820 Pahoa Kalapana Road, Highway 130 Northwest Mauka of Highway, about 0.28 miles north of its intersection on Kamali'i Road and Kamaili Puna. TMK 31-3-001, portion of 007. Staff.
Mr. Chair, if you could just give me a moment to share my screen.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
If I would like to request a 3 or 4 minute recess, please, before staff presentation. So my bladder doesn't interfere with my concentration?
I think we could arrange that, and that will give staff time to get their stuff up. So we are going to take a 3-minute, well, let's make it 10. We will be back here at 10:38.
Got it.
Okay. Hasta luego.
Maya, can you hear me? This is Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, are you guys in a broom closet or something? The audio quality is a little echoey.
Well, Jeff moved out and all of his papers are gone, so there's a little more echo. Yeah.
Okay, just wondering.
Yeah, I can try to fix that for our next meeting and maybe get some speakers. Okay.
My speakers over.
Thanks, Joe.
And one more question: do we not have a director because he hasn't been confirmed yet by the council?
Jeff is acting director this week. Our other director, Zendo Kern, is on vacation right now, and so he'll be back Monday.
Okay, got it. So he has been confirmed.
He has not been confirmed, so he's still the acting director.
Acting director.
On vacation, and so Jeff Darrow is the acting director here.
Well, wouldn't he be acting director?
He's the acting director, yes.
I'm just acting.
Exact. No act. Maya, are you ready to go?
I need about 1 more minute.
Would be perfect. It's 37.
Okay.
Why is KAU time, Mr. Chair, 3 minutes fast?
We most smart. Okay. 10 minutes are up. Is everybody back? Gilbert, Dean, are you back? Oh, there's Dean.
Yes, Dean's here.
You gotta share screen too.
Oh, I'm on the wrong screen.
Yeah, it's showing your.
Gilbert, are you back with us?
Share.
Yeah, once you open up presentation, it'll be there, and then you
Share screen 2.
Yeah, should be the full presentation versus the other.
It's weird.
Yeah, it is, because it takes up 2 screens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
One moment, we're just waiting on.
I don't even see Gilbert's icon anymore. You see even connected.
Is it left?
John, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
just worried about Gilbert.
yeah, he did disappear from the screen. I'm not sure where he went. I can text him.
I see an A. No.
He's not there.
Chair, I think it's okay to go ahead and proceed if you want to, because if we have 4 commissioners, we have quorum.
Okay, I'm ready to go. We're overdue for our break to end. So we will now have the staff presentation on AT&T Mobile's request.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everybody see my screen? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is a request by AT&T Mobility for a use permit. The subject property is located in the Puna district, south of the Leilani Estate subdivision. You can see Pahoa Kalapana Road running in a north-south direction through the middle of the slide. And the property is on the Malka side of Pahoa Kalapana Road. It's a large property, about 441 acres, And the general location of the proposed cell tower is shown by a red dot in the northeast corner of the property. The applicant is requesting a use permit to construct a non-manned telecommunication facility consisting of a 100.
Excuse me, this is Commissioner Ao.
Yes.
It's just a point of order. I noticed Mr. Rapogo was off. Okay, no, and now he's on. Oh no, now he's off again. I just want to make sure because we want to make sure we have quorum, yeah, before you move on with your presentation. But it looks like I could be wrong. He's off.
I can hear you and I can see you, but I don't know if I'm off.
I can hear you, John. Can you hear him, Dean?
Yes, I do. I just see a yellow arrow every now and then at the top of his screen. So I just want to make sure that we have quorum when we're moving forward. Yeah. Thank you.
So there may be some communication errors like connectivity. Chair Vogel, do you want to wait for Gilbert?
Gilbert is back
I don't.
I'm here.
I don't know where he went or what the story is. I can see and hear, and I can make some noise every minute or so you know I'm here.
I'm here, but I can't see you folks. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
I hear you. I see everyone except Gilbert.
Huh. Let me see. Let me get to this bad boy.
I can hear Gilbert.
I have a question for John. Is somebody in your household sharing your bandwidth now that they weren't before?
Yes. That's a possibility.
Just a question.
No, I don't know how that's affecting it. I see it shows my video is on green. Oh, and Gilbert's here, so we can begin again.
Okay, I'm going to start the presentation over again, just so that everyone sees the location map once again. Just
okay, that's fine.
Minute. Okay. So the location of the proposed cell tower is shown by a red dot. It's located in the northeast corner of the property. The property is about 441 acres. And you see Leilani Estates is the closest large subdivision, which is about a half a mile north of the proposed cell tower site. Okay, the applicant is requesting a use permit to construct a non-manned telecommunication facility consisting of a 100-foot tall monopole and related equipment within a 1,050 square foot lease area on a 441 acre property situated in the county's agricultural zoning district. The monopole tower will be designed to accommodate co-location of antennas for other wireless carriers and will comply with all federal, state, and county rules and regulations. The project objective is to fill a gap in AT&T's 4G LTE network coverage experienced by customers in Kamaili Homesteads, Kalapana, and areas south of Pahoa and along Pahoa-Kalapana Road. The facility will also expand AT&T's 5G network and provide a site for the FirstNet program for emergency responders. This is a zoning map. You can see Pahoa-Kalapana Road running through the middle of the slide. The subject 400-acre property is outlined in red, and the proposed location of the cell tower is shown by a red dot. The property is currently zoned agricultural 20 acres, as well as the majority of surrounding properties. The area that you can see at the very left side of the slide with the little tree icons on it, that is the Puna Forest Reserve. It's located about a little over 2 miles west of the proposed tower site. The general plan designation for the property is extensive agriculture, which is shown in the white, and lands nearby are designated as important agricultural lands, mostly near the Kamaili homesteads. This is the applicant site plan. The larger image is a smaller version, and then on the left side, there's a zoomed in version. You can see Pahoa Kalapana Road on the right side of the slide, and the cell tower, the proposed cell tower site again is outlined in red. The tower site would be set back about 420 feet from the highway and about 730 to 770 feet set back from the north and west property lines. The closest dwelling is located on a property to the northwest, and it's located about 1,100 feet away. This is the compound plan. So this is the 1,050 square foot lease area. It will be enclosed by a chain link fence with the green privacy slats, a double gate in the front entrance, which leads to a 12-foot wide gravel access driveway. You can see the large equipment cabinet, and then the proposed monopole, 100-foot tall monopole with the dashed line showing the general radius of where the antennas would extend out to. This is 2 elevations to show you what the tower would look like, east elevation and west elevation. And then we also have the aerial photo. The highway runs through the middle of the slide, and you can see there is an existing gravel and dirt driveway extending from the highway. It leads to the Sanford's Quarry site, which is on the southwest portion of the 441 acre property. So the proposed cell tower site is shown by the red dot, and you can see the closest dwelling is to the north west. It's this white house. I don't know if you can see the arrow. These are some photos provided by the applicant. The one on the top left shows the entrance from Highway 130 or Pahoa Kalapana Road to the Sanford Quarry access driveway. And then the one on the top right shows the same view a little further back so that you could see the type of vegetation along the property highway frontage. Mostly consists of invasive trees and palms. The lower left image is a view towards the proposed site on the access road looking west. And then the lower right image is the vegetation around where the proposed site is located to be from the access road. These images show AT&T's existing coverage for their network. The left image, you can see that there's 4 existing towers in the general lower Puna area. And the image on the right shows what coverage would look like if this tower were approved. So you can see it mostly provides coverage to the Kamaili Road area, and then extends a little bit towards Kalapana, Seaview, and primarily the coverage would be along the Pahoa Kalapana Road. This is a map showing the alternative sites that the applicant looked at. There are 2 existing towers shown with the orange triangles. There's a Verizon tower in Leilani Estates and in Nanavali Estates. It's not on this map, but there are some towers also in Pahoa. Those may be owned by other carriers. And then for this particular tower site, they looked at 2 other properties, one property to the north and one property a little bit further down the highway to the south. The planning director is recommending approval of this permit with conditions. And before I take questions, I want to address one of the issues that came up in the testimony related to Section 106, review for the Historic Preservation Act. The applicant can go into more detail about how they completed that process, but they did do a 106 review, and one of the recommendations that was made by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs was to have an on-site archaeologist monitor any construction activities to ensure that any subsurface resources, if they're encountered, that they're handled correctly. So we didn't actually, looking through the conditions, we didn't actually put that in, but that is a condition that could be added if the commission is open to that, to have an archaeologist on site monitoring construction activities. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. We recently, not recently, but some time ago approved a Verizon tower along the same highway.
Just kidding. If you wanted to have it.
And I'm wondering where that tower would be in relation to this one.
Okay, I'm sorry, Joe. Did you say the one that was just approved in Hawaiian Paradise Park?
No, we approved one just off of Highway 130.
Okay.
Not maybe a year or 2 ago, and I can't remember. I tried to look on online maps. There being no comprehensive database of cell phone towers for Hawaii County. All you can do is just try and find it. I don't have the old documentation for that application. I should have forewarned you that I was going to wonder about this, but I just hope somebody would remember where that tower was to be constructed, and has it been constructed, and was that considered by the applicant?
I can tell you where the tower was approved, and then the applicant can respond to whether they considered that site. So if you're looking at this map here, the tower, which was permitted for Verizon, is actually located just off of the slide to the south off of Highway 130. So it would be just off of the slide a little bit. Further towards Kalapana.
That's what I thought too. I'm just going to make a comment that as AT&T marches their coverage south, I would encourage them to co-locate on that tower if at all possible.
My understanding also, Commissioner Clarkson, is that tower has not yet been constructed. They're still trying to work out some legal access issues before constructing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, we will have the applicant's presentation by Andrew Tomlinson, J5 Infrastructure Partners, an agent for AT&T Mobility, Bryce Novak, J5 Infrastructure Partners, agent for AT&T Mobility. Mr. Tomlinson, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Aloha and Happy New Year, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission. As you know, I'm representing AT&T, and I'd like to thank you for considering our use permit application for development of the telecommunications facility in Puna. As Maya presented, AT&T is requesting a use permit for development of a 100-foot tower with a 1,050 square foot equipment area on the portion of the 41-acre property just off the Highway 130 on a private access, dirt access road. I'd just like to reiterate that the facility is not in the Puna Forest Reserve and is approximately about 2 miles away. This proposed facility would meet AT&T's service objectives by filling a significant gap in AT&T's 4G LTE network experienced by its customers in Kamaili homesteads, Kalapana, and areas south along Pahoa and Pahoa Kalapana Road. The facility will provide an important public benefit by including equipment to support FirstNet. And I think, as you're aware, FirstNet is the country's first nationwide communications platform dedicated to public safety. And it represents a giant leap in communication capabilities for public safety personnel. And it gives first responders access to a highly secure, dedicated, interoperable network and ecosystem supporting voice, data, text, and video communications. Since early 2020, we have all been impacted by COVID, obviously, and this hearing is an excellent example of, again, why we're, how we're being affected. So access to the internet is even more critically important to Hawaii's population, particularly for rural areas like Puna. Cellular service is sometimes the only available broadband internet service and is a vital lifeline during emergencies. In addition, there is an expanded demand for telehealth services on Hawaii Island to fill the growing demand for remote community healthcare services caused by the pandemic. Telehealth bridges the gap in medical care for patients who may be unable to physically be present in doctors' offices or hospitals, and they also can be reached by specialists that may be off island. Also, the 2018 eruption of Kilauea volcano in Lower Puna also highlights the dramatic need for expanded cellular communications in the area for both the general public and emergency response personnel. And during this event that dramatically affected the Puna district, as we all know, AT&T placed a temporary cellular on wheels, or a COW, in Kalapana to provide basic cellular services to the local community. But AT&T has determined the need for this proposed facility in Puna through a combined analysis of the market demand, service requests, radio frequency engineering design, and input from public safety officials. The proposed facility will provide all AT&T FirstNet customers with reliable wireless service in the area, which would result in fewer drop calls, improved quality, and access to emergency 911 calls. Enhanced FirstNet coverage will allow for the utilization of priority and presumption, the priority and presumption feature by first responders in wireless applications, as referenced by the Hawaii Fire Department earlier in their testimony. And this is an example, for the Hawaii County Fire Department that uses real-time data for emergency conditions be updated prior to their arrival on site. Similarly, the Hawaii County Police Department utilizes FirstNet network in concert with county-owned land mobile radio system to provide communications and rapid data access. Various agencies and community members have provided the Commission with letters of support that are included in the application for this proposed facility. The FirstNet Authority provided a letter January 4th and in part stated this network has been a top priority for first responders and public safety agencies in Hawaii and throughout the county, throughout the country, excuse me, and has been designed based on their specific express needs with coverage and capacity being paramount for this area. The Hawaii County Police Department similarly sent in a letter of support on January 4th and stated in part that in concert with the county-owned mobile land system, the department and its officers depend upon cellular to do their jobs efficiently. In the event of poor LMR reception, cellular coverage may provide a vital means of communication which helps ensure officer safety and in turn increases public safety. The area of Lower Puna and the area of Leilani Estates and beyond to the Kalapana area has intermittent to poor LMR reception. Any improvements in community capabilities in that area would be welcomed by our department. Similarly, the State Department of Health Office of Primary Care and Rural Health submitted a letter on January 4th, emphasizing the need for expanded wireless infrastructure to support telemedicine, as I mentioned earlier. Their letter stated in part that telehealth is being embraced by our organization and other providers on island across the state and the country as a way to provide expanded access to community health care. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for expanded access to remote healthcare and improved technology is greater than ever. However, Hawaii Island lacks adequate wireless infrastructure to support these advances in healthcare island-wide. AT&T's proposed 4G LTE 5G FirstNet tower will provide the latest technological capabilities in support of several important public health and safety benefits to the community. And lastly, State Senator Joy A. San Buenaventura also submitted a letter in support of this tower on January 5. In her letter, she explained that in 2017, her office conducted an informal community survey asking residents if they think homeowner associations should solicit cell tower or broadband internet towers. 292 responded that they were in favor of cell broadband internet towers, and with only 135 opposed. She stated, "This survey is evidence that despite the vocal opposition to similar applications in the recent past, the majority of area residents are in favor of cell towers and increased connectivity. Continued investments towards the expansion of broadband infrastructure are essential for the economic development of the geographically isolated areas in our state. For many rural communities, the expansion of broadband services also facilitates improvements in emergency response capabilities, telehealth services, and quality of education. In underserved areas, the lack of broadband infrastructure has become an increasingly urgent problem. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, as many measures designed to safeguard our health require reliable internet connectivity." As noted in the CUP application, AT&T is amenable to developing a stealth facility to accommodate the request of the adjacent property owners and other community members that have expressed concern about visual impacts. So we'd like to note that the Planning Department recommendation and conditions for approval reference various tower designs, a monopole, monopine, and monobroadleaf. AT&T would like to recommend development of a monopine tower for the site as a condition of approval if the Planning Commission is going to require a stealth facility. And we'd like to remove the references to the monopole or broadleaf to maintain consistency. It is clear that public safety will be enhanced by the Commission's approval of the application as shown in AT&T's application package. This proposed project meets all applicable requirements of Hawaii County Code for siting new wireless communication facilities and complies with all applicable state and federal laws and regulations. AT&T's proposal is also the least intrusive means of meeting its coverage objectives for this site. Accordingly, AT&T respectfully requests the Planning Commission approve this project as proposed, subject only to the county of Hawaii standard conditions of approval. In response to some of the questions brought up earlier concerning Section 106 and 6E review of archaeological and historic preservation, a complete review and compliance process was completed in early to middle 2020. This included consultation with OHA and public notification of requests for comments in the local newspaper in March of 2020. The State Historic Preservation Office concurred with the finding, with the determination that no historic properties would be affected. And this was included in the application package of an attachment 11, and the letter was dated July 2020. I'd also like to point out that, as Maya indicated, that this tower will provide opportunities for co-location for other carriers. So, so I'd just like to point out that, you know, AT&T would have available space in the future for other carriers if they desire to co-locate on the pole. In response to the questions about lava inundation, as was pointed out, the site was not inundated in the 2018 eruptions. And this was confirmed by USGS maps. The area is still forested. And AT&T does in-depth geotechnical studies of its site prior to final design. The site will have a structural design and foundation built to Hawaii County Code, and it will be reviewed by the planning department and a plan approval process, as well as DPW. And I think, lastly, I'd just like to say consultation for this project was expanded beyond the 500-foot mandate because AT&T wanted to reach out to more community members. So we expanded notification to property owners, adjacent property owners within 0.25 miles of the proposed site, as opposed to the mandated 500-foot notification process. And we had communication with a few property owners, adjacent property owners, and they are now they now have expressed support of the project after a consultation with AT&T. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present to you folks, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Mr. Au.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So I guess I had a question for one of the testifiers, Ms. Kealoha, about the lava situation. You know, it's a fairly new issue that arose. You know, we've talked in the past with other towers, not only AT&T, but we talked about health issues, we talked about fall radius, but I think this is the first time lava is coming up. So I think this is a valid point that I'd like to make, a valid question for you. You know, you mentioned a little while ago something about geometric studies, and that that AT&T is willing to do that, or if they've done that. I'm actually going through the documents. I went through it 3 or 4 times already, and I went through it again as you were speaking to see any indication of lava or lava studies. Could you just maybe elaborate that on AT&T side, and then I have a follow-up question after that for Maya, like if there's any lava requirements with the county. So maybe if you can go first, Andrew.
Sure. I was referring to geotechnical studies that we do, soils testing, borings prior to design or as part of our design process. So at this point, that's not included in the application process because we have not completed the geotechnical studies. That would be something that we would follow up on after. And those studies then go into our structural design, depending on what it determines what the foundation, how deep it needs to be, how it needs to be, the site needs to be compacted, and whatnot to accommodate the tower. And this is all based on county code. So these are pretty in-depth studies. And so this would be completed and then reviewed under plan approval process as well as by DPW before construction. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry if you'd like me to elaborate.
Yes, that answers my question I had for you. And yeah, Maya, if you could just follow up with that. And I think I know what the answer is, but if you can just talk about if there's any lava requirements in our laws, in the county laws.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Al. Currently, there are not, other than, like Andrew said, any building structural requirements. But I do know that the lava recovery effort is looking at implementing various strategies, whether or not to allow certain development in the area that was affected by the 2018 eruption. So far, these are just ideas, strategies being discussed, but nothing has been implemented.
Mr. Clarkson?
Yes, I have a question for the applicant regarding the recommendation for an on-site archaeologist. Do you have any knowledge of the land use history of the proposed site? Has it ever been in any kind of commercial cultivation, or has it ever been bulldozed? In other words, just trying to get, in my mind, the likelihood of the necessity for an on-site archaeologist. I mean, if this is an area that has never had much human impact, I might consider attaching that as a condition, but otherwise, could you expand on what you know of the history of the site?
Sure. The parcel has had quite a bit of development on it with the quarry down in the area, the southern part of the parcel, the large quarry operations. This specific piece, about 1,050 square foot, has not been developed. It's right off the dirt road, the access road that cuts through the property. Right now, it's still forested with a mix of invasive trees, some ohia in the area. So it's not a complete native forest, but it has had some disruption, probably because of the road development. But I don't think it's been in agriculture.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Rapperfy, please.
All right. Kind of two-part question. This is about a co-location of antennas. I appreciate that the provision in the application to allow co-location. I'm looking at the exhibits to the application, attachment number 6, photos, site photos, and photo simulations. And I'm particularly looking at the photos of the monopole picture on sheet 2 of 3 and 3 of 3, where it says the proposed equipment on monopole. So if this is the picture, if this picture here depicts what the actual layout of the antenna is going to be, how would an additional antenna be co-located with that area so crowded? Is it going to be there's going to be attachment on the bottom of it, or will it be extended up and allow the co-location antenna, co-located antennas to be installed above it? And the second part of the question is, if we're going to allow co-location, which I would highly recommend that we allow co-location on antennas, will the new provider be coming into commission to get a permit for to be co-located on that antenna? So first one would be the physical. How could they be physically co-located with the way that they look here? And the second is, will they be the second provider be coming to get permit? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Typically, what happens in a co-location process would be that they would mount their antennas below the top antennas, and there's a buffer space between the lower portion of the antenna and the upper tips of the second, what they would call rad center antennas below it, about 10 feet. So it would be below the AT&T antennas. And with in terms of your question about permitting, actually there's a discussion of that in recommendations, I believe, that Jeff and Maya put together. And I'll defer to them because I know Jeff has mentioned to me that this is new language that they're including with all use permit applications for co-locations. Jeff or Maya, do you?
Hi. So Commissioner Rafferty, if I can direct your attention to condition 6. That condition discusses co-location of antennas on the existing tower. And basically, it lays out the parameters for AT&T to provide co-location to their carriers. And it says that those things can be done within certain parameters without needing to amend this permit. They would just need to get an additional plan approval. But then if they go outside of those parameters of a substantial change as defined by FCC, then they have to amend the permit before the Planning Commission.
Thank you. I guess that was I was trying to get that the definition of substantial change.
Okay. I can look that up and get back to you if you'd like.
Oh, I was just not necessarily. I just want to make sure that substantial change would mean extending the monopole, which I think that's what it is, and a follow-up question to that is, I would imagine that when the engineer designed this monopole or monopine, however it's going to be end up to be, they're already designed it considering the co-location, having other antennas installed on here. And the load factor and all that that's already been included in the calculation for the design for this pole.
Yeah, I think Andrew can speak to that a little more.
Sure.
But what he did share with me the other day was that the reason AT&T was hoping to design the tower as a pine tree instead of the broadleaf was because the tolerance of wind is higher with the pine design than it is with the broadleaf design. Andrew, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. The definition of substantial pursuant to federal law would be 20 feet.
20 feet.
And from a structural design standpoint, before any co-location is done, there's a structural review of every tower that's been in existence. So typically newer towers, yes, have capacity to host co-location equipment. In the case of, let's say, an older tower, what typically happens is there's a structural review of the tower and what's proposed for equipment, and then in some cases, actual modification to the foundation or the structure of the tower is completed prior to any co-location, making sure that the structural integrity is up to code.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Jeff?
Thank you, Chair. Just to expound on that, so to answer Commissioner Raffapi's question a little bit more detailed, what happens is we're trying to promote co-location. And to do that, we're trying to make the process a little simpler. When the tower first comes in, they go through a plan approval process, which looks at the conditions of approval and the permit. It looks at landscaping requirements, setback requirements, height requirements, and make sure that they're in compliance with that. Once that's been established, then if they co-locate on the tower without increasing height or width or anything, it doesn't make any sense to go through that review again. So they can go straight to building permit. But now the FCC has added this additional allowance to go from what the permit allows to 20 feet above the height of the tower without what they consider a substantial change. So if they come in for that, then they have to come in back for plan approval because they're going beyond the original height that was approved, and we'd have to look at setbacks again. If they go beyond that 20 feet, then they have to come back before the commission. So that kind of just spells it out in a nutshell as to the 3 steps that are added now.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Rob Logo, I have a question for
Yes.
Andrew. Hey,
Mr.
Happy New Year,
Aguinaldo.
Andrew.
Happy New Year, Mr. Aguinaldo.
Hi, how are you? Hey, I have some questions to ask. I am very familiar where this cell tower is on the gravel road access to the quarry. Now, are you aware across the street that was the famous steam vent that, born and raised in that area for 48 years, that was the famous steam vent until it got tiny overgrown, right?
I couldn't hear what you said, the famous...
It was a steam vent where people...
Oh, steam vent. Okay, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So, right. So just making, all my commissioners as well understand that is, where it was located. I know your intention is great. Cell service is needed. And I thank you for expanding from 300 feet to the 500 feet. That is also awesome. Always concerns by the community is location, number one. Second is frequency. A lot of things with FAA is beyond our knowledge. It's in your guys' expertise. I would like to suggest in the near future that a lot of people, when it comes to cell towers, it's a hot topic. A lot of controversy is, a lot of things about 4G, 5G, and yes, we always rely on data says this and that, but it's basically nobody is speaking on that behalf to any cell tower provider. One question I have is Commissioner Clarkson indicated we did approve a cell tower going towards Kalapana, but they're just working on their getting access to it. Now, are you guys willing to do a co-location in that area? Reason why I highly stress is we don't want to see a lot of I call them toothpick cell towers popping up left and right because of that. It would be in the best interest someone step up to the plate and say, hey, let's be partners. So we don't see a lot of cell towers. Another one is I wasn't aware that AT&T had a cow. I was very down during the lava flow. How I learned about a cow is my property, T-Mobile put a cow. And I thought they were joking. Well, what do you mean a cow? Because my grass is tall. Cow is cell on wheels. So I wasn't aware, and I would like to know where was your folks' cow, located. Because the past lava flows, Verizon had a cow way down the lava viewing area. So I wasn't aware that you guys had a cow. Now, the question that I have, what made you pick this location? I just looked, there's two areas. Bishop Estate owns slightly close to that area when we're talking about, Tulelani half mile. There's two properties that Bishop Estate owns. And that is, a fairly large parcel. It's over 200 acres. And, there's, no other houses near in sight, And there's another one that they own. That is the one I'm talking about, Andrew. TNK 13009-001. Yeah, that is one. And they also have another one right across the street. Another one where there's no houses nearby, and TNK 13009-002. So what made you guys pick that location when you can, hop on with Verizon down towards Kalapana? And I'm sure you guys are aware of you guys' competitors as well, where cell towers are popping up. What made you pick that location versus what I've just indicated? There's another one next to that, TNK 13009-003. Now, T-Mobile has I guess a cow there. I think there's still a cow that's they got approval, and that is over almost 100 acres. That's right across Leilani. I'm just sharing those areas because I'm familiar with that area. Is what made you guys pick that area where, on that proposed site versus what I've just indicated? Now, is it going to affect signal service? You folks are the expert on that. Have you guys looked in other options? Because for me as a commissioner, number one important thing is serving our community. That's our job. That's what we vouched for.
Sorry, Chair, point of order. If
Yes.
Commissioner, sorry, Gilbert, if you could let him answer one question before you go to the next question, that would be a lot easier for us to keep track of what we're on. So, thank you.
That's a great idea.
I think I get where you're coming from in general with your line of questioning. So I'll answer the first part about the cow location. It's down in Kalapana, and to be honest, I don't know the precise location, but it's very much south towards the water. And in terms of cows, they're temporary facilities that don't provide the bandwidth, the level of service that this permanent facility would provide. And so it's a temporary solution, as would be, I would imagine, T-Mobile's and Verizon's. And so we wouldn't be able to co-locate on those. In terms of the Verizon tower, my understanding is, as Maya pointed out, it's much further south down the road from our location, and it's also not built, which is it being south is a significant factor because we've identified this particular areas where we need to cover more north up the road. So that's why this particular location was chosen. It's got the elevation and exposure to the road as well as pointing down towards Kalapana, and gives us connectivity back up closer to our other towers towards Pahoa. If in the future Verizon builds their tower down towards the south and there's a need and for coverage down there, those are always considered. Co-location areas are always considered as part of the process and development. So this particular location was chosen because it fills the significant gap that's been identified for the area and meets the objectives that AT&T is really specifically trying to identify, particularly for FirstNet. And FirstNet has requirements that these facilities get built in a timely fashion in the very near future here. So there's a need to fill this demand from FirstNet in particular, as well as other coverage in the area for the general public. That's why we're moving on this location.
And another one, Andrew, would it be, why build it right away? Why don't we, like you just said, the cow? And I'm pretty sure your cow is right behind the old Catholic painted church. We call them by the water spigot down there. So I'm very familiar where you guys' cow is located. That's why I asked the question, if you knew where your cow was. How come, AT&T doesn't, put up a temporary cow for now, see if it works, the signal or whatever, because it's temporary, versus just putting up a permanent cow. Not permanent cow, but a permanent cell tower.
Facility.
Why don't?
Because the cows don't provide the bandwidth and the frequencies for LTE as well as FirstNet. They're basic phone services only, so they won't fulfill the requirements that AT&T has for the area. So in essence, this facility would be providing permanent service for the area, whereas the cow is really was designed as a temporary facility during the emergency.
Right, during the time, like emergency, like lava flow. Now, the two sites I indicated with Bishop Estate, Kamehameha Schools, have you folks looked into that site as well?
So we do a very thorough examination of the area, and I can't specifically say that because I'm not exactly familiar with the parcels you're speaking of with Kamehameha Schools. But so we do a thorough examination based off of demand and our radio frequency requirements for the network. In this particular case, as we have in our RF kind of justification package, which is attachment 3 in the application, it shows kind of it gives a more in-depth explanation of that process and shows how coverage would be affected. So we looked at some various properties in the area, and Sanford's Service Center was amenable to developing on this site. It's already being used as a quarry site. It is essentially almost about a quarter mile away to the nearest household. So there was that consideration was taken into account during the process.
Okay.
So it is. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you aware from the statement from State of Hawaii Department of Land Natural Resources, a document dated July 9th, 2020, the state listed Hawaiian goose, or nene, has a potential to occur in the vicinity of the proposed project site. I do frequently, when we used to get aggregate up there, they do hang around the area.
Sure.
And that's something, you know, very, very, cannot take it lightly, Andrew.
Oh, absolutely.
It is against state law to harm or harass these species. And if any of these species are present during construction activity, then all activity within 100 feet, 30 meters should cease. And the bird should not be approached. Now, the question is to that, how are you folks going to mitigate that? Are you guys going to hire somebody to make sure? Now, if they fly there, who's to be accountable? Say, hey, we got to move away. Getting any goods around the area, we got to go away. You know, so that is kind of like, you know, my biggest concern is that.
Okay.
How are you guys going to mitigate that?
So as part of our NEPA compliance process or environmental compliance process, we do consult with DLNR, as you referenced, as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to determine if there are critical habitats, endangered species in the area, as well as historic preservation resources. So the as part of this process, they identify if, as you mentioned, they identify if there's endangered species, let's say like the nene, or in another case, there's concern about OHIA virus. So we hire biologists prior to any activities. We survey the area again as per recommendations from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and DLNR, DOFA, for construction work. And this is completed prior to our geotechnical work or any other time when we're talking, you know, trees. And then as part of the construction process, the crews are required per condition to have a briefing on biological, you know, security awareness. And so that if a nene is, you know, spotted in the area during construction, construction will stop, and they will notify biologists and will notify, you know, appropriate agencies and stop work if that occurs. Because yes, of course, you know, nobody wants to have an interaction with a nene that's you know, in the area. I think it would be typical of any other construction project in that area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for Andrew?
Yes, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Tomlinson. I know that co-location is the second choice of every cell company because they always have to put the co-locator has to put their antennas typically below the original builder's antennas, and therefore they get considerably less coverage. And so if we're going to promote co-location, we need to make these towers as high as possible without being extremely obtrusive. And I know that coverage goes up exponentially with height. So my first question is, why only 100 feet rather than say 140 or 120? And well, I'll stop there. That's the first question.
So as part of our analysis for the site, it was determined that this was the height that would fill our coverage objectives for the target area. Is the short answer. So that we don't, you know, we look at our coverage objectives from an RF perspective and what's demanded, and this is what would be the height that is needed for AT&T.
Well, what would your reaction be if we asked you to locate your antennas at exactly the same height they are now to be located, but build a tower 20 feet higher so that a co-locator could build above you and also get good broadcast area?
In terms of design for future co-locations, it's difficult to ascertain what a co-locator would require at this point. So they quite frequently, actually, carriers co-locate at the second level and sometimes the third level below towers. And as Jeff mentioned, and we discussed earlier, a tower extension could be added on this tower without having to go at approximately 20 feet, without having to go through the use permit amendment. So there is capability to expand the tower 20 feet if it was required by a co-locator, but that's yet to be determined because we wouldn't know exactly what their requirements are at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew.
I'll let Dean go
I have one
first.
more.
Oh, there is one? Yes, go
I have
ahead.
one more question. So, really quick, Mr. Tomlinson, you know, you guys are aware, or AT&T, your client is aware that the property is in lava zone 1, right? You know, everybody that buys in it, just make sure that you guys know
Yes.
it's in there.
Yes.
And just like any other home builder, there's a potential that your facility could get damaged. So just want to make that clear.
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually one of the reasons why we need to go in the area is because of emergency response, because there are eruption events. So yeah, we're very aware of it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
No, I just have one. I looked through the co-location condition in the conditions from the planning department, and there's no requirement that the structure be built sufficiently strong to allow co-location. I'm going to want to make that a condition of approval, that the tower structure be built sufficiently strong in both foundation and mast, that it allow an equivalent antenna structure to the proposed structure below the applicant's antennas, so that should some other company come along and say, hey, we want to co-locate below your antennas, we don't get into a situation that says, oh, sorry, this tower can't support more antennas on this site. So I think one suggestion would be to the department to include that some kind of structural requirement for co-location. And then I'll ask Mr. Tomlinson if he has any objection to that kind of condition.
I think we're fine with that in terms of our design. Again, it's difficult to know exactly what a co-locator would be required to have, but the tower will be built to, structural, the code. So in general, yeah, we'd be fine.
I'm being very specific here, basically to duplicate your existing antenna structure at an elevation below the proposed antennas that would be suitable, that would not interfere with your antennas, but as high as possible without interfering, and design the tower to at least accommodate a duplication of your antennas, assuming that other companies would have similar antennas that they would need if they co-located. That's the only way I can think of to have a condition that would be specific enough to be given to an engineer and say, yeah, we can do that. We'll just double the number of antennas and design the tower accordingly.
Okay, yeah, I think we can agree to that condition.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry to say this, but I just have to ask this one more question. And it has to do with your calling 850 megahertz frequencies 5G in your application. I mean, 5G is a very emotionally laden word with a lot of people, and I, for one, can't see how you could get 5G bandwidth out of what's essentially low 4G frequencies, and yet you're still saying you're going to call it 5G. Can you explain that, please?
In terms of using, well, the low band 850 frequency would be used for the 5G NR in this particular case. And a lot of it is done with software in the radios in the back end, which improves the efficiency and the capacity for data throughput in that bandwidth. In more urban areas, there's different bandwidth used, which covers a smaller distance, but has a higher capacity for data throughput. Whereas this would be the low band 850, which is a longer distance, but doesn't have as great a capacity for data. But the software is in the radio and helps manage the network demand and improve the level of service to 5G.
Okay, you're calling it 5G even though basically it's just, okay, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments from the commission? Commissioners, I will entertain a motion for action.
I'd like to move that the application for use permit docket number 28000084 be approved based on the planning director's recommendation, plus adding a condition that the structural design of the tower be required to be sufficient to accommodate an additional antenna structure equal to the applicant's antenna structure, which shall be adopted.
I second the motion.
It was moved by Commissioner Clarkson and seconded by Commissioner Rapperfy that the project be allowed to go forward with the conditions stated and that an additional condition be placed on it that would require the strength or the construction of the tower to be able to withstand co-locating an equal antenna to the one that AT&T is proposing to place on the tower at this point. Structurally, is my understanding correct? Yes, Mr. Darrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification and for the record, I know there was discussion about a broad leaf tower and to convert it to a monopine. Just want to clarify that that's still the direction of the commission and the applicant, that it be a monopine tower. Is that correct in my understanding?
That's what AT&T would prefer. If the commission would be requiring stealth, we would prefer it be a monopine.
Does that then need to be added as an additional condition? I somehow assumed that monopine was already part of the application. If not, please add that as a condition.
Yeah.
I think the monopine would certainly look better from the road. I know the tower is not visible from any residence that's in existence now, as far as I know, but from the Kalapana, the whole Kalapana highway would be.
So this would be a minor change to condition 3 that identifies the broad leaf tree, and we would just change it to a monopine.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Again, it was moved by Commissioner Clarkson and seconded by Commissioner Rapafee that the project be allowed to proceed, that the tower structurally be able to accommodate an equal antenna system to the one that AT&T is placing on the tower, and that this tower will be a monopine tower. Is this any discussion on that motion?
Yes.
Yes,
Chair,
go ahead.
I have a slight discussion that I'd like to talk about. Lava. Lava is a question I had from Mr. Tomlinson. And I'm not sure if I support this motion. And the reason why is because, one of the purposes that the applicant is pushing this cell tower is for first responders. Okay, so what's the point of having this tower if there is another lava eruption and the tower goes down? It's not gonna help any of the first responders in the area. So that's why I'm not sure if I support this motion or not. It is lava zone 1, as I explained, and I like to hear from Commissioner Aguinaldo because that's his district. So it's just a comment, and again, I'm on the fence. I don't know where I'm going to stand on this motion.
I'd like to add my concern to that. I thought about the same thing when all the discussion of cracks and steam vents, and I remembered our discussions with other cell companies that had towers fall over because of lava from a 2018 eruption. But on the other hand, I'll say this to Commissioner Al, the lava zone 1 is a gigantic area. And if we were to say no telecommunications company should be allowed to take the risk of erecting their towers in lava zone 1, that entire area will never get coverage. I mean, it could fall over from a fissure eruption next month, but then again, it could be 100 years. So my view, what I was thinking when I heard all of this, well, if they want to put it there and take the risk that it's going to get knocked over by a lava flow, that's on them. We'll let it go until that happens.
Mr. Rapafee?
Yeah, along with Mr. Clarkson, his comments, I was thinking about that, but I thought that perhaps that'll be addressed in the permit process or plan review process by the building department. I would think that building will be addressing that issue. But I think our concern at this time is whether to allow them to even proceed with a plan to construct this tower. So whatever that is our concern as far as building and the structurally sound a facility if the foundation is strong, what is underneath there? There's a cavity underneath there. There's a fissure underneath there. I think that'll be addressed in the plan review by the building department. So I would be in support of this motion, because I think they need it down there. They need communications down that area, and it became very prevalent during this time when there's a lot of kids that I know that the parents have to drive up the road in their van for their kids to have their online classes in their van on the side of the road, using the telephone or using their iPad or what have you. But yeah, I think they need the communication system down there. But as far as where they're located at, I think it's going to be up to the building department to review that plan and make their comments appropriately. Thank you.
I would also comment that the civil defense is going to be well aware that if that cell tower does go down because of lava, the people in the area better be thinking about evacuating immediately. And the tower could serve a purpose even going down. Anyway, is there any more comments? Are there any more? Okay, if the staff would take a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Replogle. Commissioner Clarkson.
Aye.
Commissioner Rafferty.
Aye.
Commissioner Au.
Aye.
Commissioner Aguinaldo.
Aye.
And Chair Replogle.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Andrew, for your time.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
We are going to move on now to approval of the minutes. Commissioners, I trust you have received and reviewed the minutes of the December 3rd, 2020 meeting. May I hear any corrections or a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I move, Commissioner Au moves to approve minutes from December 3rd, 2020.
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Au and seconded by Commissioner Aguinaldo. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Next, we have administrative matters. Staff, any administrative matters?
Hi, Chair Replogle. So the first item on administrative matters is the SMA log, which I believe was emailed to the commission on Monday. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has on the SMA log. Nothing? Okay.
Looked like a pretty quiet log to me.
It was.
So, Mr. Chairman, item number 2 on administrative matters. This is discussion of creation of a new planning commission rule of practice and procedure related to procedures for recusal of a commissioner. There was a situation that arose in the Leeward Planning Commission, and this matter came to light, and the Leeward Commission asked that there be discussion at the Leeward Planning Commission. That was discussed at their last December meeting. I believe that's correct. Maybe it was January. But we did mention that we were going to take both of the items that were placed on the Leeward agenda to the Windward Commission as well. So items 2 and 3 will be presented today. Our Corporation Counsel, Malia Hall, will be addressing item number 2. I'm going to share my screen so that she can be able to present the training and discussion. Give me 1 sec, I'll be right there. Okay.
Yeah, so as he sets that up, I'll just begin talking just about, so our rules of practice and procedure do not have anything about recusal. We've kind of just been doing it, you know, as on a voluntary basis. You know, if a commissioner feels they have a conflict or even a perceived conflict or an appearance of a conflict, they will either ask me about it or they'll just recuse themselves. So the Leeward Planning Commission was concerned that we would have an actual rule so that we could have some guidance. And so I looked through all the other boards and commissions, and I found the Merit Appeals Board, the Board of Appeals, and the Board of Ethics all have a very similar rules, and they put it under as disqualification of a board member. And so we'll show you kind of their rules, and this is all just a pre-discussion in the sense of you guys can think about it, because of course we would have to go to a joint commission and you guys would have to vote on this, and it would have to, in order for it to be you know, a majority of the joint commission in order for it to become a rule. So this is the Merit Appeals Board disqualification of a board member. As you guys, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You guys can go ahead and review it. We'll leave it up for a little bit. If you guys have any questions, the basics of it is, you know, a applicant could, if they thought that perhaps a commissioner had a bias or a prejudice, they could send a petition to the board and ask them that they review that, and that the commission members, basically this is board members because they're a board, but the commission to, you know, review that, and then the commission, you know, if the commission member decided that they didn't want to recuse themselves, then the whole commission would vote on whether they deemed that that commissioner has a bias or a prejudice or not. So as you see before you, you know, they have to state all the facts and the reasons. It can't just be, there really has to be, it's set up to show what the perceived bias or prejudice would be. Can we move on to the next slide, commissioners, or did you want to continue to read this one? It's pretty much really similar. Same one. This one is any party to the proceeding, basically, you know, can file an affidavit and bring into question a board member or commission member's bias or prejudice about the application that you are reviewing. This would most likely only come into effect when you guys are reviewing actual approvals and denials. With recommendations, I guess we can discuss that as a commission when you guys, if you guys want to move forward with developing a rule, if this would apply to recommendations as well, or just where you guys have the authority of approval. So this is the Board of Ethics, which is very similar. The Leeward Planning Commission had asked for bias and prejudice definitions. These are actually from the Black's Law Dictionary, and this is mostly geared to criminal law. So those other rules that were included don't actually define bias or prejudice. So it's kind of left to the discretion of the board or the commission members to look at the situation case by case and decide on whether that board member or commission member has a reason to be recused or disqualified, as they put in those rules.
Malia,
Yes.
I have a question. You mean there is no state or county law already in effect governing bias or this issue among all of these? I mean, county council, any public decision maker should be subject to some law that requires their refusal if there's an obvious bias. And isn't there's nothing out there that except
No, when I said that there's no, our rules, basically the planning commission rules, do not contain anything about the process of recusing yourself or anything like that. If you wanted to go through the whole conflict of interest or fair treatment, those are contained in our code of ethics, which would go to the board of ethics. But if we're looking at just at our commission members and what they're doing, you could, as a commission member, if you had a question about whether you should appear or not, you could, as an officer of the county, go to the board of ethics, petition them and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking of sitting for this application. Do you guys think I have a conflict or any sort of bias? Or I don't think they use bias and prejudice in our code of ethics. It's more of a fair treatment or conflict of interest terms. So that would be for, county-wide officials and officers would petition the Board of Ethics for those kind of decisions. This is specifically just for the commission, the planning commission, when a commissioner has, or mostly basically in these ones, unless you include other situations, this is when an applicant believes a board member or commission member has a bias or prejudice, and they want that to be reviewed prior to the reviewing of the application.
Okay, I'm just surprised that there's no body of law that covers this, self-dealing and conflicts of interest that would already apply to board members, commission members.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the bias prejudice laws apply to judges, like sitting judges. I'm guessing that's probably where they actually got these rules from, because they're very similar to the Hawaii Revised Statute rules on bias and prejudice as related to judges in courts. But specifically for commission members of the county, no.
A question.
Thank you.
Question. So it's the applicant that has to file the petition. What about somebody that, let's say somebody that protests that that is in opposition to a certain, let's say a certain project?
Yeah.
Could they file a petition against a commission member if they perceive that that commissioner might have a prejudice or bias?
Yes, Jeff, if you'll go back to the actual rule slide, it allows for any party to do it. Well, these ones do.
Or any person.
Yeah, any party. No, any party to the So if somebody intervened and made it a contested case, then they could then submit an affidavit to question bias and prejudice. But if they're not a party to the actual application, like the applicant or the person contesting the case, then they wouldn't have standing to file this. But again, that's these are other board rules. So if you guys wanted to tweak that with yours, you could, but opening up to a broader, like any person can file would be, it might create more issues.
I see. Thank you.
Yep.
Malia, I have a question.
Sure.
So I served on the Board of Appeals for 5 years, and I did read through this when I served on it. And well, I guess I don't have a question. I just want to support. I want to support this because we need to have a set of guidelines. For us as commissioners. I think all commissions should have a set of guidelines. Every commission should have something like this in their rules, and that's something that I didn't see when I got back on this commission. But I think I support it. I think it's a great idea. I like how it's written now, and I favor any type of tweaking that anybody would do to it. But we need a layer of rules for us commissioners. And I've said in the past too. We're here, and we're volunteering. Everybody around us is getting paid. Everybody is getting paid except for us 5 on this call. So, we are volunteering, and we need another layer to protect us, and I support it.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I don't foresee, I guess Jeff could speak to when a rule change would come up. I don't foresee it happening anytime in the immediate future, but I'll let Jeff speak to that.
Thank you, Malia. At the commission, at the Leeward Planning Commission, they asked after the training for staff to work on a rule and bring it before the commissions to be able to add into the Planning Commission rules. We will put together a rule and bring it forward. What we'll probably do is present it to the commissions first, just for review, to make sure that they agree with it, or if they have any concerns or suggested changes. Then when we come together as a joint commission, we can bring that forth. It will most likely be housed in the general rule, which is Planning Commission Rule 1. There are other changes that we're looking at shortly to the Planning Commission rules, and we can incorporate this particular change with those changes as well. One of the changes that we're looking at is based on the recent Bill 2060, which had to do with coastal zone management and SMA and shoreline setbacks. So based on that change in law, we're incorporating those changes into our rules, and we'll be bringing that before the commission. The one thing I did want to mention that I mentioned at Leeward is, there was, the question, why is this coming before us? We've never had an issue like this. And I would agree, in all the years I've been doing this, I've never seen an issue come up comparably. 99.9% of the time, commissioners are very sensitive to their connections outside of the commission. And if there's any type of conflict or perceived conflict, they want to make it known, and they want to ask their fellow commissioners if they feel that they need to be recused, or if they may feel themselves, it is a clear conflict, I'm going to recuse myself from this application. But again, there needs to be that clarity that if there is a perceived conflict or a conflict and that particular commissioner is not making that known or agreeing to recuse, that there's a process available to be able to address that. So that's what the rule is for.
I would like to ask that there be some guidelines also promulgated along with the rule that covers what kinds of conflicts, what kinds of evidence of bias or prejudice commissioners should consider if an application for disqualification comes before the commission. because I think we need to have some pretty clear guidelines ahead of time so we aren't thrashing it out just in the context of an ongoing application for disqualification.
Okay, we'll try to address that and put something together. I think what we defer to is just what Malia had brought up, is the definition of bias and prejudice, and that's we have to look at that and make that determination. But we'll try to come up with some examples and guidelines on that.
One other question: was there something that happened at the Leeward Commission? A commissioner who a lot of people thought should have obviously recused him or herself, and they refused to do it?
I won't go into specifics, but an applicant had submitted a request for a commissioner to be recused based on previous submittals or letters that were written regarding the project, and so that's what prompted the discussion of all this matter. There was apparently a perceived conflict on the part of the applicant. So,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No,
I was just gonna say I agree with what Malia said in regards to the people filing or bringing up these conflicts should be parties to whatever's going on. Like, yeah, not just everybody in the world can file these things and now you're bogged down with that. Anyway, that's all. Anything else, Mr. Darrow?
I think that concludes. Malia, did you have anything else to add?
No, nothing further. Thank you guys for your discussion and direction is helpful, and Happy New Year.
So we do have item number 3, and if you could give me a moment, I will share my screen again. We have another PowerPoint. Let me go ahead and get that. All right. Okay, let me know when you do see that screen, and I'll proceed. You folks see that? Okay. So this was another matter that was requested to be brought forth before the Leeward Planning Commission by a particular commissioner. The concern was that they wanted some direction and clarity as to the ability to review a project when a project has had a considerable amount of time that has passed. And so it prompted us to take a look at our rules, especially in regards to amendments, because that's basically what ends up happening. A project is approved. It's given a certain amount of time to comply with that project or construct or complete. And the project does not get completed. It ends up, whatever situation arises, whether it's the economy, whether it's a pandemic or whatever it may be, person has health related issues, but they find themselves coming back to the commission or the council. And so they just wanted to provide more clarity as to the ability to be able to review or re-review that particular project when they come in for these amendments, and to have some criteria in place that would allow them to either approve or deny based on these reviews. This particular heading talks about amending the county code, but it also should say and/or planning commission rules, obviously, because it's going to relate to criteria for amendments and which will be placed in the rules as well. So our current language for amendments is very general, and if you look, you have two sections here on the screen. One is for time extensions, the top part, and the lower part is for additions, modifications, and deletions. Although they're basically the same in content, that you need to identify the affected condition, you need to identify either the length of time you're requesting or the specific amendment, and you have to provide the reasons. It doesn't speak at all to criteria for reviewing these. As far as the planning department, what we've been doing historically is using our administrative time extension condition, which is in almost all permits and ordinances that go before the commission and council. And we basically refer more specifically to items B and C, that the granting of the extension or the amendment would not be contrary to the general plan, which also includes the community development plans or the zoning code. So when these amendments come in, we take a look and see if the general plan has been changed, whether there's been a change to an existing community development plan, or whether there's been a new plan created, or if there's been a change to the zoning code that would affect this particular project. The other area of criteria that we look at is that the granting of the extension or the amendment would not be contrary to the original reasons for granting the permit or the ordinance. So that this statement right here basically allows us to go back to the original reasons and criteria for approval and re-review the permit in relation to how we approved it originally. If nothing's changed, then it should be good and it would get a favorable recommendation or an approval recommendation to go forward. In discussion with the commissioners on the Leeward Planning Commission, they wanted to use the language that is in the 106 review as well as the HAR environmental review language in the Hawaii administrative rules. And what it says is the passage of time, changing perceptions of significance, or incomplete prior evaluations may require the agency official to reevaluate properties previously determined as eligible or ineligible. And again, this is in relation to Section 106 review, but they're trying to use this similar type of language to bring it into an amendment review that has not come to fruition within that particular time granted originally. If I go to the next slide, it talks about more specifically under the environmental review what those changes are. And so it says that an EIS is accepted with respect to a particular action is usually qualified by the size, scope, location, intensity, use, and timing of the action, among other things. An EIS is accepted with respect to a particular action shall satisfy the requirements of this chapter, and no supplemental EIS for the proposed action shall be required to the extent that the action has not changed substantially in size, scope, intensity, use, location, timing, or among other things. So that's kind of the focus here, that if this project has changed substantially in these particular areas of size, scope, intensity, use, location, timing, among other things, then they wanted to have the ability to require additional review for an amendment or a project that's coming back before the commission that may actually be changing as well. And this may include asking for updated reports, like a traffic report or an archaeological report, or whatever report the commission may feel is necessary or needed for them to make their decision. The commissioner had actually put together some language. He was going to send it to me. I have not received that yet, but once I get that, we can look at that and add that in. But what the proposal or the suggestions would be is that we would be proposing as part of these, as part of these amendments coming before the Joint Commission, another amendment that would kind of clarify or identify the criteria for these amendments that would come before the Commission and or the Council. And we would add the additional information that was requested by the Leeward Planning Commission. And so this is just an update for you. It also is giving you the opportunity to be able to include some suggestions that you might have or ask questions regarding this particular request. This concludes this presentation. I can answer any questions that the commission may have.
Jeff, I have a question. So Jeff, so as it stands now, the planning director has the power to approve this. Is that correct?
Well, there's in almost all permits and ordinances that come before the commission, there's what's called an administrative time extension condition. And that basically is an allowance that if the project doesn't be completed within that original time period, normally it's 5 years, that they have one administrative time extension for a period not to exceed what was originally permitted. So if it was 5 years, they can be granted an additional 5 years. It's only given one time, and after that period, they have to come back before the commission. But again, even when they come back before the commission, it's going to be normally a time extension request or an amendment of conditions of that particular permit. And so that would be the commission or the council that approves that request.
And that's what we just saw with Ikaiko Mohana, right? They were previously approved on their time extension by the director, and then the second time it came to the commission. That's exactly what happened. Is that correct?
Yeah, they not only asked for a time extension, but they asked, because that actual project was changing scope from a multiple family project to an affordable rental housing project, they actually were requesting some changes or modifications to existing conditions as well.
So Jeff, my question is why is this particularly necessary if the time limits are reasonable? And I mean, anytime an amendment for a condition comes back to the department or the commission, we could just say, no, circumstances have changed. We're not going to approve this amendment. And if that kills the project, so be it. Or no, you don't get a time extension. If you haven't built it by now, you don't get to build it. I don't understand why this other commissioner is so concerned. I mean, have projects in the past been approved with unlimited time? 20, 30 years go by and all of a sudden the community is completely changed in character? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I mean, I can't answer to the actual intent of the commissioner. I can say that he's had previous background in working with agencies that do these type of reviews, and so he felt that it would be helpful for the commission to have that particular type of language added to the commission rules when they review projects. So it was clear as to the criteria for approval or denial for an amendment. But on top of that, a point that we're trying to do as part of this overall request is add in specific language into our rules that is currently not there. We don't have anything in our rules that give us direction as far as criteria for approval or denial for an amendment or a time extension. As I mentioned, we've been utilizing the criteria that's in the condition that we use for the administrative permit. So we're trying to take that language and put it into the rules. But again, taking into consideration this added information and requests from the Leeward Planning Commission to beef that up as part of the review. We do have, you know, we do have certain rules that say, like, if a period of time has passed, a applicant needs to do a updated traffic study or something, but it's very limited as far as the overall scope of all the different types of reports that could be needed because of the passage of time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So moving forward, staff will prepare some language for both the recusal as well as the criteria for amendments, and we will provide that to the commission, as well as hopefully some type of guidelines that Commissioner Clarkson had requested to give some direction as to what bias and prejudice issues might mean in relation to everyday life. And we'll, from there, once we're prepared with these other rule changes that we're working on, we'll prepare a joint planning commission meeting and try to get through these amendments. Thank you. And if I haven't said already, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Is there still with us?
Chair Replogle, I have a few announcements to make, if I may. I think we may have lost our chair.
That's okay. Our vice chair is here.
Okay. So we have two potential new commissioners that may come on board. The mayor just submitted a nomination for Michelle Galimba, and I'm just going to briefly read some of her background and experience. She's been a resident of Hawaii for 45 years. She lives in the Ka'u district. She has experience ranching, and she's currently active on the Big Island Resource Conservation and Development Council, USDA Farm Service Agency Committee, and Advisory Council.
She previously held positions on the KAU CDP Steering Committee, the Charter Commission, and the Hawaii State Board of Agriculture. Let's see, I don't see a date for her confirmation at council. It looks like Mayor just submitted her name to council at the beginning of the year. So we'll keep you posted and hopefully she can join us within the next month. The second nominee is Dennis Lin. Dennis lives in the South Hilo district. He grew up in South Hilo. He serves on multiple boards and is a member of the Chamber of Commerce. He's a graduate of Waikea High School and UH Hilo. His experience ranges from office management, legal assistant, commercial banking analyst, commercial banking officer, and he's currently employed by HPM Building Supply as the program manager for the Hale Plus Dynamic Home System. So if these two individuals are confirmed, we will have a full commission. Yay.
Stay scared.
So those are all the announcements I have.
If there's no further business, may I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So
I make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
I have some further business, very quick. I want to congratulate Chair Replogle on his excellent first time in the cockpit. And job well done. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
You should get a picture, John, so you can post it on there when you're not actually on there.
You mean when I'm awake?
No, when your little gold triangle comes up, then it'll pop up your picture.
Okay, so before we adjourn, I just want to ask this question. When this is done, you're going to help me make my computer correct to go from browser to app or whatever that was?
Yes, we will give you a call and we will hook up with you to try to let you know which application to press to be able to avoid the web option.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a
So
question
if
for
there's
you,
no,
Jeff. Wait, let me just ask a question to Jeff. So Jeff, I understand you are the deputy director now?
Well, I think I'm the acting director. That's what I've heard.
But your official capacity now is going to be
Deputy
director.
Well, I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers because we have to have a director for me to become deputy. But they have asked me to be deputy, but it really is dependent upon having a director. So,
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
we could use all the support we can for our director to get confirmed.
Well, I wanted to ask, or I was wondering, how in the heck does the new director, has he accrued enough vacation time in less than a month to take vacation?
Well,
sorry guys, is this, did you end the meeting yet?
No, not yet.
No, I'm trying to
Almost.
Okay.
Rochelle's being our director right now.
Thank you.
I know that Zendo had this this vacation plan with his daughter for quite some time, So that was kind of the agreement that that they would allow him to take that time to be with his daughter. And it really is it was tough for him, you know, but you know, this is one of those things that family comes first.
I understand.
But
Agreed.
again, any support for our director would be much appreciated.
Got it.
Thank you.
May I please hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
Our first meeting from January 2021.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 Till February.
Bye.
Aloha.
Bye.
Happy New Year's. Happy New Year month.
So I'll wait for your call then.